What is up? I'm Marcel and welcome back to The Modern Filmmaker. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make modern animated titles in DaVinci Resolve 17. So recently I've been working on a new preset pack for DaVinci Resolve called Abstract Titles, and it's a lot of just abstract shapes and motion, and while it probably is the most advanced preset pack for DaVinci Resolve with even multiple versions with each preset, speeding up workflow even more. That's not the point. You can check that out in the description below if you want to get these. But one thing I love about these is the modular design, and a lot of them will have a shape that comes in and then that shape will explode into more shapes. I actually used some pretty cool techniques that made these pretty simple to put together. And as they say, teach a man to fish and he eats sushi. I don't know. So if I just delete this and we make a new fusion composition, I'll delete this timeline as well. And I'll right click on the media pool within the edit tab of DaVinci Resolve and just go to new fusion composition. Now I like to do this way, and I'll show you why in a second. Let me just label this to, let's say, square explosion. I can't spell. And making the fusion composition this way can help you just get back to that fusion composition, because if I just go to, let's say, effects and then fusion composition, I drag that into timeline, it'll give me a new timeline. But if anything happens to that timeline, that fusion composition is also gone. So it's just, I don't know. I like having it in the media pool, especially when I'm intending on working on a fusion composition. It's like, okay, well, let's just start out with a baked in fusion composition that will stay in the media pool. And then from there, I can right click this and go to open in Fusion page. And once this opens, I'll have my media out here. And if you're unfamiliar with Fusion, I have other videos on Fusion, but I'll quickly kind of say that this is almost like a tunnel. Everything that you pipe into the media out is what'll be in your edit tab of your Fusion composition. So pretty much it's like you have two programs, the edit tab and Fusion, and your Fusion composition will dip down into Fusion and then come out through the media out into the edit tab. So this is kind of like the delivery window. You pipe everything to here, and this is what will show in the end result when you go back to edit. So we'll start with a background. So I'll click on the background of this whole node section and click this background tool here. It'll give me a background, and then I'll click this merge button here, and it'll give me a merge node, which any pretty much node structure has to pipe in through a merge node to get back through the media out. And you'll kind of understand that as we go along here. So here in the merge node, I'll have our background input and our foreground input. So this is almost like a layer. And if you pipe this layer into media out, we have our layer number one, you can almost call it. And we could even press F2 to relabel this to layer one. And layer one would be on the bottom with our background piped in to layer one, and then our foreground. And so I'll make another background, and then I'll make another merge, and then I'll pipe this merge into our layer one, effectively making this kind of like our layer two. Right. So F2, I'll say layer two. And no, I don't usually name these layers, but I feel like for anyone learning, this will just make this a lot easier. And so moving down, I'll come to the second background and I'll make this our shape. First, I'll make it white, and it'll be our first square, which we're going to use the rectangle tool here, which is the rectangle mask, while selected with the background. We'll click that mask and it'll give us a mask layer. These blue triangles are mask inputs. So we'll use that later on again. And I think as we go along, you'll probably get a better understanding of how this all works. But with the rectangle one piped into our background two, we can now reshape the width in our rectangle properties. You see we have level, which is like an opacity. We have soft edges, which will blur. We have a border width, which gives us a bigger border. We have a solid, which we could make non-solid and then make this a border and do really cool things like make lines and stuff like that. You could keyframe these, which is pretty dope. But we don't really need that right now. We're going to make a solid, and then we have our positioning, our width, and our height. We need this width to be a little smaller here. And that looks good enough to me. Looks like a pretty good size square. And I'm going to hit this button here just to give us one preview window instead of two, just to make things a little easier. And then from here, we'll start animating this in particular square. And I'll go to our background two, and I'll go to this transform button in this menu here. and I'll click this and it'll give us a transform. And I'll use this transform to reshape or reposition our square. And so if I click on the transform and go to the properties here, I can go to size, and I'll go ahead and just make this smaller. And boom. And I'll relabel some of these nodes to kind of make it a little bit more understandable. This right here is our shape mask. So I'll hit F2 to relabel and type in shape mask. I'll go to this next one, and it'll be F2 shape color. And we can leave the transform there. I'll hit F2 and relabel shape transform. So we know that that's shape, position, and size. From there, we can go to the transform, the shape transform, and make a keyframe in the very beginning of the center. So while we're on frame 0, we can click keyframe on the center, and then go out to maybe 18, frame 18, and keyframe again. And then this little arrow that'll take you back to our first keyframe. Click that arrow, and we're back on our first keyframe. And now I can push this up. And if I hold Control, I can zoom up and back with my mouse wheel and kind of see where that square is. I like that. I want it nice and far out of the way just in case. And then I can move these to the side by clicking in on the mouse wheel and moving around this backspace. I can also zoom in this window by holding Control and zooming, just like I can hold Control on the preview window and zoom there. Really convenient, really easy to get around. And then from here, I'll go to the spline window so we can kind of ease those keyframes we just made. So I'll go to the spline window, I'll click the shape transform spline, and then I'll go and click this button here for zoom to fit. That way our keyframes will zoom to fit into the window we have here. And I can drag and hold and select this last keyframe and click S on the keyboard to ease that motion. And then if I go back to the beginning and play this back, we can see this drops down. It's pretty nice. Nothing too special, but it's nice. And one way we can kind of slow that down a little bit more organically, make it seem a little cooler, is just by giving this more of an ease. And in our spline editor, if we click this little line here, the end of this little line, the handle is what they call it. If you click this and hold Alt, you can drag horizontally and it won't go up and down, which is really convenient. Because if these things get even a little off center, it's not going to be what you need, especially in this kind of situation. So it's super important that you keep this centered with that Alt. And you can do the same thing vertically. If you hold Alt and go up and down, it will not go horizontally. It will only go vertically. So I'll hit Control Z to undo that and undo again to get back to where we were originally. And I'll click this, hold Alt, and drag to the left to give us more easing. I'll go all the way to this 8. So it eases quite a bit. Zoom to fit again, and then check this out. Nice. Maybe I'll make it a little faster by scooting this last keyframe back to 14 and ease this a little more back to the 4. And then, nice. I like that. Feels quick, organic, and that's what we're going for, quick and organic. I'll get rid of the spline editor for now and go back to our nodes here. And I can right click and go to line up all to grid, and then right click the background again, arrange tools to grid. This way now things will stay organized when I move them around. And if you guys could just like this video real fast before I move forward, just saying, give it a. So now we have our square sliding down, but we need the square to slide down and explode out to many other squares. So we'll use one tool to start that process. And if we scoot these 3, the shape mask, the shape color, and the shape transform, a little to the left, we can click on the shape transform, then hit Control Spacebar and type in duplicate. And duplicate is a beast. Duplicate will allow us to quickly make multiple squares and then vary the position and size of those squares and even opacity. So if I click add here, it'll go ahead and add that to the node structure. And from there, once this starts to drop down, I think about halfway through this drop down, I almost want it to spill out. It almost flowers as it falls. I don't know if that makes much sense. It's kind of a funny movement. So that drops down. Let's go by the 8, and I'll take this copies, and I'll hit the keyframe. And then if I click forward, I'll hit copies again, click the keyframe again. And the copies will allow us to make various copies. So just for example, if I go ahead and make 7 copies, and then I move the center to the right, it's kind of dragging all those copies to the right, and it'll drag them in a line. So if I go really far, then they'll all just stack up next to each other. I can do that with the size. And if I take the size down, they'll all get smaller as it goes down. So the 7th one will be super small, or as small as I kind of have these controls set. I can do that with the angle. I can rotate them, and they'll all kind of rotate separately. I can change the pivot to kind of get them all moving wacky, get more variation. So there's a lot of things we can do here, a lot of possibilities. And this makes a lot of really complex motions really, really fast. And for instance, what we just did with these keyframes was we keyframed. Now we have 2 copies. Then at the next keyframe, we have 7, which is quite a bit. And that only crosses 1 frame. So if I come back to the first keyframe of the copies, I'll click 1 here, because in the beginning of this, we just need the 1. 1 copy means we have 1 square, and that's it. And then once it goes, it clicks over and it'll make 7. And then at that point, we're going to keyframe it to start spilling out all over the place. And so we'll go to our center and make a keyframe there. We'll go to the pivot, make a keyframe there. We can go to our jitter, and jitter will kind of randomize things. So if I click right horizontally on the position in the controls, all of them will go to the right. Whereas in the jitter, if I click right, it'll randomize. So now they're all kind of going all over the place. Super convenient as well. So we'll keyframe this also, and keyframe the axis of the center jitter. And then we will come back to, we'll actually start with the jitter and go up a bit to when this lands. It lands at 14, and we're going to go to 18, maybe 20. We'll go to 20 at first. And then we'll move the x-axis to the right, spreading these out just a little bit. Then I'm going to come to the controls, and I'm going to go to the size. I'm going to pull this down. Now we can kind of see them. And then I'm going to go down to the blend too, because in the presets that I have, I actually blended these down to all have different opacity, which kind of gives us more depth. It's almost 3D-ish, but it's not. And that's what's cool about it, because you're doing a very 3D animation without going into 3D part of Fusion and really bogging your computer down. So from here, you can kind of just massage these to kind of get them in a position you like. So let me kind of see what I'm feeling here. If I go back to our center X jitter, I kind of want to keep these close. So let me get these a little closer, and then I'll come to the Y, and I'll separate them this way. Oof. And then I'll try our axis here. And kind of just take your time with this, because you almost want to slowly, accidentally find something cool. If that makes sense. Oh yeah, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. Boom. Right there. Something like that is dope, I think. And then we have to go back to our splines, and we have to ease these animations, but I'll show you what we have at the moment. I'm going to hold Control and move my mouse wheel down to give us more room in our node graph while we have the splines up. And I'll click on our zoom to fit. And then if I come over here, what I can do is, before we keyframed the shape transform, we don't need that to change. So we can take the shape transform and click that off. And we can click it entirely off. I don't even want to see it. What will happen is, if this is checked, then it'll be editable, and we can actually move it. If it's unchecked but still activated, then we can see it, but we can't edit it. which can be really useful sometimes. And if it's unactivated at all and just unchecked, then we can't see it, can't do anything. It's just out of the way, which is nice. Then we come back to zoom to fit. And then I'll come in, and right here is our copies, and we can leave that uneased. We just need those copies to turn on because they'll all turn on in place. Because right now the keyframes are all in place, and then the keyframes spread everything out. So they can all just come on in place once the thing slides in. And then we can actually ease in, select this, and then hold Control, select these down here, then press S. Now we have kind of a whip, and we can even uncheck the copies. That way that'll be out of the way. And we can see the guys that we're working with. And from there, let's see what this is like. Let's see. We may not need the first ease. So if I can go back to this first keyframe, make that just a linear motion, this might look more, yeah. Yes, we can actually move this whole thing. If we could ease this, that would help. So this is kind of hard to see because I'm kind of so zoomed in here. I've got some scaling going on, so no matter what screen you're using, you can see everything I'm doing, but it's making things kind of difficult to see. So if I just know that those are clicked, I can drag along this and kind of find where the keyframe easing is. You see that line there? If I hold Alt, I can click that. Whoops, I'm going vertical. I need to go horizontal. Hold Alt, drag that across. I'm going to go to like 13 or something. Then the next one, click, Alt, hold until it lines right up. Boom. It'll disappear when it lines up. Click that one, hold Alt, and line up. Boom. Now it should look more fluid. Yeah, that's sick. All right, so now if we go and just grab all these keyframes, drag these back to like 18. Ooh, that's dirty. All right, hold on. Now grab the last one, drag that out to back to 20, I think. Oh, yeah, that feels good. It's like, shoo. It almost feels like if you were to drop some goo on a surface and it's like, poof, kind of just goos out, you know? Comes to a nice slow, ooh. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. One thing I'm going to go ahead and do is add text. Before we add more squares, which we can add more squares and having more customization of this whole image, like more colors and more shapes and stuff like that. But one thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and add text. So if I add a text node and then add a merge node to that text, and then we kind of have our next layer, and we can label this text layer. Yeah, nice. And then from there, let's say I come into this text and I put in the, and we customize this. So I go in and make this black. And let's say extra bold. And then I'll move this layout up, get a little design going on here. You know, we got to be smooth with it. And then you know what? I'm going to add another. Actually, before I add that text, I'm going to animate this text. And I'm going to do that with the transform again, just because I prefer to do this with the transform. I'm going to move the pivot to the middle of where this text is. Just so now it'll transform on that exact line in space. And then from there, I'm going to see where this animates. I'm going to slide that in from the right. So from 18, or from frame 8, I'm going to make a keyframe in the center. And then at 20, I'm going to make another keyframe. I'm going to go back to the first one. I'm going to move this over to the right. And all right, we'll need to ease that, which is totally okay. If I go in here and uncheck the duplicate, I can drop that down and then go straight to our transform 1 that's controlling our text. We can even relabel this to text transform if it helps, which it might. And then grab this last node, last keyframe, hit S, Click the last handle, drag that up to make it a little more smooth. Smoothie. And nice. Could be a little slower even. I'm going to go to 24. Yeah. It keeps going right past where those other ones flare out. Boom. I love it. So let's go ahead and copy the text and the text transform. And actually, and the merge too. The whole nine. Copy, Control C, and then Control V to paste. Connect the text layer 2 to the text layer. And then this one can be modern. It can be YouTube Red. It can be much smaller to where it fits right inside here. Move that over to center it up. You know, got to do the perfectionist thing over here. Close enough, I think. Let's just go to 18. Again, perfectionist, it's a problem. And I'll just drop this down to about here. Then I'll actually come to transform 1. Zoom to fit. I'll grab both these and move over by like 2 frames. Then I'm going to grab all these 3 again. Actually, I'm just going to grab the first 2, text 1-1 and transform, text transform, and copy and paste. Then I can connect that to the foreground of this text layer 1. Type this, filmmaker, bada bing, bada boom. Layout, drag that puppy down. You know what's up. And then make this like a gray. I don't know. Nice. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay. And that's not all here. There's a great thing we can do here, which is really, really sick. And so now that we have pretty much these animations, actually, we'll have to go to this last transform. So this transform -1, we'll click off that. And then this transform, text transform -1-1, we'll go to this one over 2 frames. Boom, boom. And so now we should have all 3 of these sliding in. All right. That's cool. That's cool, right? Kind of, but it's broken, right? Because they shouldn't be seen until they slide in. Well, what do we do there? Well, this is actually easier than you think. So from here, I can actually go to, because of what I know we're about to do, I'm going to make another merge. And I'm going to connect our duplicate to the background of this merge. Then I'm going to go to the merge, connect the merge to the mask of layer 2. Boom. I don't know if you saw what just happened on the screen. But now this duplicate and the opacity of the squares and the squares themselves control if you even see the text at all. And you see how the opacity is even different here because this opacity of this square is different than this is full opacity. So as it slides in, it'll pass through the squares and slide right. Oh my, are you kidding me, Marcel? Come on, man. If we're not modern filmmaking, I don't know what we're doing around here. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. There's more. So from there, if you click on these transforms, you'll see this line. This line is your animation. It is where the animation is coming from. It's pretty much the guide, if you will. We already set the easing and the timing. This is like the guide, which is pretty amazing. So let's say we want the second one. The comes in from the right. We want the modern coming in from the left. So now I've got this transform selected. I can click this last thing and drag it to the other side. And now, very quickly, all right, hold on. Before I just go around patting myself on the dang back, let me go ahead and click this third one to the bottom. Oh my God, and come on, one more time. And oh, come on, y'all. So one more thing we're gonna do, just so you have a little bit more customization here. We're gonna grab these, we're gonna move all this up, and I'm gonna come down to shape, color, shape transform, and duplicate one. I'm gonna grab all three of these, hit Control C for copy, hit Control V for paste. I'm gonna connect our mask to this second color, shape color, which was our background. So now we have two squares with one mask, which is nice. You can use one mask for multiple shapes. And then come over to the duplicate, and I will make another merge, which will be like a hidden layer that we have in here between our layer 1 and 2. It's not really hidden, it's right there. I'll get rid of these splines. And we'll also need to put this duplicate into the foreground of this merge, and then we'll make some more squares out here. What we can do is re-square these duplicates, reposition, re-square, whatever I'm trying to say. And if I go back to our keyframes, reset these keyframes, and just start over, because now you got different squares. So you might as well start from scratch, put them in their own position, level the playing field. Now I'm just talking to take up time while I try to figure out what looks good. That's what you got to do sometimes. And I'm ready to do what it takes. Let's look at that. Oh, man. Okay, we'll have to go through and spline this real fast. We have a duplicate 1. We need that duplicate 1-1. Get rid of all these. All these. We don't want to be confused. We have a little bit of space here. 1. Zoom. We'll get rid of that keyframe, and we will ease these. And then we will... Oh, actually, we'll get rid of this keyframe. And boom. Hope you guys are following me here. I made an extra copy keyframe, but it's getting wild. Select this last keyframe. Smooth that out just like we did before, but maybe even a little different. And maybe push it over one frame, the whole animation, and I mean, that's pretty nasty. One more thing, what's cool that I did before is you could also delete this, put in a text, and I used some pluses before. So I used the text node to make some additional shapes. And because of how we set it up, you can easily replace the squares to make them whatever you want. And now you have even these lines busting through. I mean, come on, that's pretty sick. Dope, clean, modern, whatever you want to call it. If you like the video, like the video. If you don't like the video, like the video. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them in the comment section down below. And feel free to subscribe if you like videos on DaVinci Resolve. And as always, I'm Marcel. This has been a Modern Filmmaker. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.